if you have a disease like this, where you've got the smoky ring and you've got grass on the inside, that's brown patch, right? We know we can be confident in that.
Yeah, generally speaking, the longer your leaf is wet, the more chance of disease will come in. There was some work where I think with dollar spot, you can reduce your disease incidence by about 50% just by getting rid of the dew every single morning.
How do we identify the difference between spring dead spot and brown patch? And then we'll go into some cure solutions, how we can help it.
The disease does not attack the plant directly. It attacks the soil, but the soil becomes hydrophobic. So you put the fungicide on and it'll kill the disease and stop it. But you need to re-wet the soil. Obviously, with Australia, our diseases are very similar, but they might behave a little bit differently, affect different grasses somewhat. I've seen so many times people use my product, or people use a product and go, I have to do two applications 7 days apart just to get rid of this. Go down the road and they go, yeah, one application cleared it up. And the only difference is the cultural practices.
All right, welcome to today's episode of the Australian Lawn and Garden Podcast. This episode is something I've been wanting to make for a long time. For the longest time, I've struggled to find great information on turf care fungal diseases in specifically Australian conditions, knowing Australia weather, climate, knowing Australian lawns like warm seasons of grasses. And if I'm totally honest with you, I don't know that much. And what I do, as Nadeem would know, is I send him messages and I send him pictures. And I go, Nadeem, what do you think about this? What should I do with this? And I just thought, let's do a podcast where we jump on and we go through pictures of things like brown patch, spring dead spot, dollar spot, fairy ring, leaf diseases. And we have that conversation. And you can use this, listener, as a resource to refer to whenever you've got issues. Nadeem, you've come with books, you've come with a lot of experience. Why don't you give us a little bit of rundown of your story, why we would talk to you, and then let's get into some information.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. Good to see you again, mate. Over here from the other side of Australia. So pretty much, look, I've been in the company, as a lot of people know, or maybe they don't know. It's like I'm a director and part owner of Campbell Chemicals. It was a family business from the past. My dad had it. And when he passed, me and my brother work in the company. And when he passed away, his shares came to us, and we've got another director and owner in business, Jeff Derrick, who does our product development. So there's a lot of products in the turf industry that he's developed over the years, which people probably don't realise, but that's a whole other story. I've got a whole podcast on that one, on my one, if you ever want to listen. But yeah, one of the things is like learning about these diseases. Like one of the things is like, I'm always upfront with people. I've never been a groundkeeper. I never went to TAFE or anything like that. So I was on the job learning. But one thing I really did do early on is talk to people that were smarter than me, and I still do that to this point. There's a lot more people smarter than me. I read a lot. They've got some really good textbooks, and I also head to the States to hear about different things going on there and learning about it there. Obviously, with Australia, our diseases are very similar, but they might behave a little bit differently, affect different grasses somewhat. So you do need that local experience. You sort of need to look at it, the backbone, the theory from what we see in the US, but also you need to be able to apply that practically here in Australia. So I tend to know, hopefully know quite a bit on diseases, but I don't know everything just yet. But I also make it a point to know about how to control these diseases, not just through my products, but obviously the competitor products out there, because there's some bloody good products out there. But also the other side of it is going cultural practices, which we'll talk about as well, because I've seen so many times people use my product, or people use a product and go, I have to do two applications 7 days apart just to get rid of this. Go down the road and they go, yeah, one application cleared it up. And the only difference is the cultural practices. That's what it comes down to. So having that healthy turf as much as possible and knowing what to do when you do get those diseases. So we can go through that as well.
Yeah, look, this is one of the reasons I'm getting you on, is that you're not somebody who is but despite being a supporter of the podcast, and you're one of the businesses that helps us do what we do here, you don't come on and be like, let's slam my products down your throats. And more importantly, we don't just slam products down people's throats. And we've had conversations in private where I'm just saying to you, okay, what do you think about this? And you're like, okay, let's aerate this first, or how's the watering cycle like? What's going on here? Because we want to solve the problem. You're not just trying to sell a product, which is one of the reasons why we want to have this podcast. So we're going to go in depth on this stuff. I'm going to get some pictures up very, very soon. But when we say cultural practices, when you're new to the industry, what you hear is, are we talking about, I don't know, like dancing? Are we talking about like music festivals? Like from I don't know, from a different period of time? What is a cultural practice in the turf
So
scene?
that's a fair when the fairies come and
The
dance.
fairy ring. Yeah.
That's a fair. We'll get into that there. So cultural
Yeah.
practice in what you do from a day to day basis to maintain your bit of turf. I'm going to say turf, whether it's turf or lawns. It doesn't matter. I've always used turf. Or lawns, obviously, if with a lot of people who are listening to this, I don't like calling it grass. Turf or lawns, it's a more professional, gives a bit more, like grass is just, something out there on the council strip type thing. This is actual turf. So cultural practice in terms of how you treat it with your mowing practices, your watering practices, your nutrition practices, and then your renovation practices and all of those type of things. And then comes into what other products you put on, and it's everything. It's not just one thing that you do that'll give you the solution. It's multiple things. So that's how I look at cultural practices.
So before we get into the individual diseases, are there common things that we can do before? Let's say I've just looked out my lawn and there's a disease on there. I don't know what the disease is. Is there common things I should be looking for just across the board? Things that could be causing it, things that I could be doing wrong, or things that I could do to help it that don't involve any sort of chemical?
Yeah. All right. Number one that you see, especially with a lot of leaf disease, is dew. So you see, the dew forms in the morning and that leaf wetness. Like for a disease to come in, there's, if you've seen some of the textbooks, there's that turf triangle. You get the host, which is a turf, the pathogen, which is a disease, and the environment to be all conducive to any particular disease. And generally speaking, the longer your leaf is wet, the more chance of disease will come in. So from that, get rid of the dew on your turf. To get rid of that, you don't have to if you're not having disease, but if you've got disease there, get a broom just with the plastic bristles and run over it with that. It's not going to hurt the lawn at all, but it just drops some water down into the cap. If you've got irrigation, put the irrigation on for a couple of minutes just to wash it off. It's like when you have a frost. You can sort of melt the frost with a little bit of water to reduce it so the frost doesn't hang around as much. But this is the same thing with disease, just to wash off the dew in the mornings. So that's 100%. That's going to help. There was some work where I think with Dollar Spot you can reduce your disease incidence by about 50% just by getting rid of the dew every single morning. So, and a lot of times then when you do that, you may not end up needing to do any fungicide applications anyway. So especially when it's starting.
So 50% reductions, because I've seen these videos on the internet of guys who are using their lawn levels or something to get the dew off. And there's something satisfying about seeing it, and they get a lot of views. And then people just think it's just a waste of time.
No, they're definitely not a waste of time. And it doesn't take that long either. And especially, level lawn is great because you get anything long, you should do with it. In the US, I've seen, it's not much here, but people do it with ropes, with the irrigation, with the hoses or ropes, and they drag it along the back of a workman or a gator, and then you see them de-dew the fairways. That's that, and they tend to do that. A lot of times that happens for tournaments and the likes like that. So there's a lot of different ways of doing it. Some wetting agents will work to reduce dew as well, will suppress dew. So a lot of them, obviously, they're there to help, hold moisture in the profile. But what they also will do, they'll also have that coating on the leaf where it just repel the water. So that tends to help as well. There are specific dew products out there, but just a standard wetting agent will help. The other thing you've got to do, which I always say, is like stop and look back at the area. So for instance, I know there's a lot of lawn contractors who listen to the podcast, and when you go into a situation, you got an issue, just stop, look around, look up, look down, look left, look right, look everywhere about, okay, what could be possibly causing this? Is there shade issues from a hedge, from a tree, from branches? And if there is, I don't need to cut the tree down or something like that, but see if you can thin it out. Let a little bit more air in there. Let a little bit more sunlight in there. That's going to really help reduce it there. It's like, you had Matt Oliver on before on the podcast, and he's got the grow lights there. And a lot of the time with the stadiums, you've covered up with the shade, so they need the grow lights. Same thing with a lawn or any turf area, you could have shade issues. So anything there to get a little bit more light in to reduce the amount of leaf wetness will help. That's a definite there. Tree roots can be a big thing as well. That can really, those areas can really do a lot of damage. That's when you start to go, you know what, that's maybe a little bit too hard basket, but if there's a tree that's causing issues, can you remove it? Yeah. by all means go for it. But I know it's not going to be when people are going to, if they're going to talk to a client about it, they're going to no, we're not going to remove that tree. So look at little things. Yeah, look at little things you can do to get that air movement in, that sunlight. That's the main thing.
Well, I think so. So we're talking about, just to clarify here, we're not talking about one day of dew being an issue.
No.
And what we're talking about with the structure issues in terms of hedges or buildings or shade is a consistently wet, damp place where the wind's not getting in, the light's not getting in, nothing's evaporating over the day, or very little is. And it's constantly wet. A tree making that area constantly wet. And you might go, in those areas, if you can't modify something and you're constantly getting fungal diseases, maybe what you need to modify is actually remove some of that lawn area and plant something that would thrive in a damp environment. Is not going to be, because we're trying to force something you're trying to force a square peg into a round hole in that scenario.
Yeah.
And we're doing that instead of constantly applying products, and that could include fertilizers, wetting agents, like you said, all the way up to harsh chemicals, as a more intelligent way to solve that problem.
Yep. Yeah. No. Definitely. Anything like that to change sort of the structure of everything. There, anything you can do, definitely will do it. The other side is aeration, and I guess it's like when you do see people online just getting pitchforks and punching some holes in the area. Look, that'll definitely help. Anything there to break up the compaction, get the moisture through, anything along those lines that can help it. It's better to do something rather than nothing. And you don't do it once. You got to keep on doing it. So definitely with the dew to get off the surface. You tend to get it more so in the shoulder seasons, your autumn, in through winter and late winter. So that's when, especially sort of late summer into autumn, when you start to get the dews there, that's when you tend to get a lot of the leaf diseases and a lot of dollar spot coming up. So that's a good time to really keep on doing it. And this is not something you have to do every day. Like, as I said, you need quite a few days worth of the dew. So it's that time of year where you're always getting a dew every morning. That's when you go in and do these things. Otherwise, it's do it 365 days a year. It's not worth it to do it that much. It's a lot of time to do it. But just on that the main sort of few weeks a month or a couple of weeks in a month. The other side of it is going that if it's wet one day and then it comes out sunny and dry the next, or heap of wind, you don't need to do anything there. You can have other problems in the long run that way.
Okay, so let's recap this very, very briefly. A common issue is people who have areas that are constantly wet. Those constantly wet areas, we shouldn't be just applying crazy amounts of chemicals to solve the problem. We've got to solve the foundational issue. Things like wiping the dew off, things like opening up some airflow if possible, things like even aerating, wetting agents. What about nutrition then? Because I've heard that sometimes disease is caused, or maybe even often disease is caused by an unhealthy plant to start with. Is this the case? Is there ways that I can fertilize diseases out? Is that maybe a bit too optimistic? Is it preventative nutrition? What's a quick rundown on that?
Yeah. There's different schools of thought out there. So it's, you put nitrogen, you're going to increase the incidence of disease. But the other side of it is, if you've got bad disease, you're going to probably end up having to spray a fungicide. One thing I will say in terms of fungicides and chemicals is, okay, look at fungicides as your antibiotic. So when you go to the doctor, he gives you antibiotics, that's your fungicide. You don't go to the chemist and go, give me an antibiotic straight up. That obviously not when you can't get it. Look at a fungicide from that point of view. So you go to the chemist to get all your probiotics, your all the natural products, fish oils and all of them, which proven to work. Look at utilising them. So when it comes to nutrition and everything like that, going, yes, you still want nutrition in a plant, because a plant's weakened. You still need the healthy plant to be strong. So it does need some nutrition. You don't need to go over the top and apply way too much where it just grows like a heap where you put a heap of urea, but you still need some decent amount just to give it a bit of a feed so that healthy plant will start to grow out. And the other side of it is some plants that are just weakened anyway, that little bit of fertilizer will help it resist and start fighting it off. That's the other side. You still need it. It's like when you're sick, they always say, drink plenty of water, and eat. Obviously, sometimes you're not hungry or anything like that, but the plant's the same way. You do need it to keep it alive. So definitely nutrition there. And that's where the controlled release, the slow release fertilizers, having that in your plant, that gives you meat and potatoes. That gives you carbs and gives you that setup for when you do get disease, then it's like they'll come out a lot quicker. If you've had no nutrition into the plant, it gets disease and it gets sick. It's going to be very hard to recover or new growth to even come through, because a lot of the times when you get attack on the disease, getting the fungicide on, you really need to get the fungicide on very quickly once a disease is germinated for that plant to survive. The great thing is with turf is like you get a lot of regeneration of the plant, you get new growth coming through. So what I usually say is like, look, if the plant is dead, nothing's going to revive it. Simple as that. You need that new growth coming through. That's what you need. Where it's like, it's very different to say if you're growing a crop, whether it's like a wheat or canola or citrus or apples. Once they get disease in there, and if it's not, and if whatever, and if they've got it in there, there's some products where there's a disease called black spot. If you can't get a fungicide on within about 5 days from germination, not from seeing it, from germination, you pretty much wiped out that apple.
And how long? So how long are you getting that? When do you start noticing it? Because if it's just from germination, like that's
so it all depends on how rapid the disease is going to grow. So it comes back to those weather conditions. So if you get sort of like I'll say far north Queensland and right up there, up there guys, you get the hottest weather, the most humid weather up there. Disease can grow very rapidly. Then you go sort of more the southern part of in Western Australia where you get disease, but it will be very, very a lot slower in growing, won't be as rapid. So you can get on a little bit. You've got a little bit of a leeway there, and that's where cultural practices can come in a bit more. Where say far north Queensland, so especially this more through the wet times, the wet season up there. No, you need to get out and really look at it. Like if there's any farm contractors listening for up there, from that point of view, that's where I probably advocate more of a preventative spray program, because once the rain comes during that wet season, you can't get out there and spray a lot of the times. Yeah. So that's where I would advocate a preventative program. But then you go sort of in Western Australia with the summers you have going, you don't necessarily need a full-on preventative program. And up there far north Queensland or even southeast Queensland, you don't need to do it all year round. Just do it in those peak times. Or if you're going away on holidays, that's one of the things that we do in the golf side of things. It's like Christmas comes along, all right, let's throw the kitchen sink at it. At least everyone then can relax and go, I've covered my bases for at least a couple of weeks. And don't have to come in for anything but really, well, they still have to come in, but it's like at least, you're covered for a lot of things.
Let's get some pictures on the screen. Yep. Because this is what's going to really help people. So we've got some pictures. Here we go. We've got a whole host of diseases we're going to talk about. Like I said, brown patch, spring dead spot, dollar spot, fairy ring, and even some leaf diseases. If you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify, you can see at the top here, hopefully it's nice and clear for you that we've got a name for our disease here, and we've got some pictures. I'm going to scroll through them. Nadeem, what have we got here? This is probably the most common one that I'm dealing with, so I've started with this guy. What have we got? What are we looking at?
Yep. So this is brown patch. So one thing I will say about diseases is that how it shows up on different types of turf is different. It might end up being the same disease, but it can look different. It's and you can look in textbooks. I remember one year, I remember seeing all the American textbooks about brown patch, what it looked like on a bed grass golf green. I've never seen it like that before. And then I was at a bowling green, a bed grass bowling green, and I actually saw textbook brown patch. I got excited. That's just the news that's coming out. I got excited to actually see textbook brown patch. But generally speaking, you're not going to see it. I've seen brown patch where it's like, and we'll go through some of the pictures that look very different from what you think. So this is brown patch. So brown patch is a common name for the disease that we call it. So you'll see up there, the guys, as Luke said, people watching on YouTube and that, it says rhizoctonia up the top. So rhizoctonia is a causal disease agent, causal agent of it. But commonly we're just going to refer to as brown patch. And you get brown patch in warm season, cool season grasses. So it's rhizoctonia no matter what. There are different types of rhizoctonia, but generally speaking, the rhizoctonia, the brown patch we see in lawns and in warm season grasses is the Solani strain or Solani strain, but everyone calls it a little bit different. So they're the common ones there. But that's
here's another one here.
Talk about one? Oh yeah.
I'll just jump in here for a second here. Is I'm going to get to this very soon, people. But if you have a look at this picture, this is brown patch. If I go to the next picture here, whoops, I pressed the wrong one. I go to the next picture, it looks very similar, This is spring dead spot. We are going to talk about that soon. So we're going to talk about the differences of them soon. That's probably what a lot of people want to know because they look at them and they go, which one's which? Why don't you tell me now? You jump in here. You tell me what you're going to say about this.
Yeah, so brown patch, you'll tend to get a ring around it. So you can, create another common name brown ring patch. So you get a ring and you get that smoky ring as well. You see a bit of icing, it sort of can go grey brown colour. And this is the one that we're showing now. So this is warm seed. This is in IQ. So this is now referred to as large patch. So brown patch is sort of more in when you read American textbooks or American sites, brown patch is referred to the disease of rhizoctonia in cool season grasses. Large patch is rhizoctonia in warm season grasses, but they're the same disease, just showing up differently.
Oh, right.
So this is large patch. So if anyone says large patch, it's brown patch. That's what it is. So don't be, sorry.
Well, I just want to pause you there because you mentioned, so this is one of the things that confuses me. What you just said there about they look different in different types of grasses. I have definitely had that. I've definitely had that where I go, I have no idea what I'm looking at here because when I look up the disease, say brown patch, it's completely different. I didn't even know that about the different names because I have looked at it and go, these diseases look the same. Yeah. Let's have a look at this in here because this is what you're saying. On the edge here, we're getting a bit of what you would call a smoke ring. Right? Can we talk about this? I hope this is showing up well for the people. If not, I'll go over here and I'll zoom in here, and you're sort of getting it again, a dark yellow sort of ring on the edge there.
That's
Tell
right.
us about the smoke ring.
Darker. Yeah, so it's slightly darker color, so it's very much a symptom of brown patch. So you get this, they call it a smoky ring, and it looks like it's got a bit more sort of fungal activity in it, and as the disease is growing out. And you'll get that sort of slightly different colour of it there. And also with brown patch, you will still tend to get, like as you see in this picture here, you tend to get like some green grass still in between. In that, but it's a full on patch disease. So it's like dinner plate. Well, this is better than dinner plate. These ones because they're quite huge. But
that's one of my dinner plates when I've had a long day at work. That's a well earned dinner plate right there.
Yeah,
but even through here.
So there's that. So it is sort of fair. Should I say it's probably one of the easier ones in a way to diagnose in certain situations. Like I've seen this disease. Actually, I probably should have sent it to you. It was on a sports field on Santa Ana Cooch, and it was you couldn't if you're standing on top of it, you'd have no idea. It looked like there was just thinning out, and being a sports field maybe played on too much. You sort of got to step back and try to look at see if there's a pattern, see if there's that patch, see if there's a ring to it. So sometimes you don't see that smoky side, but you've got to sort of stand back and look at it going, is there something else there? So online, if you guys see me online, people will ask, well, what's this? And a lot of people jump to whatever conclusion, but you do need different angles of it. And even from a picture, it is hard to diagnose. More than happy to help people with diagnosis of things. But, you need to sort of look at it at different angles. What's it looking like? Is there a shape? Is it a circular? Is it irregular? Is it spotty? Is it half circles? What's it look like will sort of give us a bit more of an idea of what it could be. But when I look at this picture, like when I took this is actually from one of our distributors in I think in South Australia that took this. It was this was classic sort of large patch, brown patch type things, like textbook stuff. So, but sometimes and the different height of cutted turf as well. So some lawns that you're cutting in, quite about anywhere from 10 to 15 mil. Other ones 30, 40 mil. It'll look different. It'll look it can look quite a bit different. So you've just got to be wary of that. That's why get those different angles and just see if there is that pattern to it and what it looks like. That's probably the I guess does that make sense?
No, I'll try and summarize this. You're saying the telltale signs are this smoky ring, but also grass still alive on the inside, kind of. And then if even sometimes you may not necessarily have a strong showing of the disease with the smoky ring, but the shape could be a telltale sign, and maybe in those hard to diagnose cases, you might need to take a few more photos. But I guess if you have a disease like this, where you've got the smoky ring and you've got grass on the inside, that's brown patch, right? We know we can be confident in that. Now, sometimes as well, just from my experience, the little 2 cents I might add, you've told me this, so I'm just pretending to be smart, but I'm just sharing the information you've passed on. The brown
smart.
patch might have done its course. It may not be active anymore, and I
Yes.
may be missing the smoky ring. But if I've
Yep.
got a dead patch with some stuff in the middle that's growing back, that may have been disease that's come and gone.
Yes.
And so let's just go quick rapid fire. Let's say I've gone into the situation. Yep. We've done the cultural practices that we've talked about, right? Yep. What am I treating this with? What am I using once I've got this? I've got the smoke ring, it's active. I want to stop this. What options do I have?
Yeah, so there's a lot of products out there for brown patch control. That's the thing. So can I show you some of my product there?
Go for it. This is what we're doing. So he's nervous to show his own products. Help us out here today.
Yes, I don't know what. I will talk about other products. So this is one we've got. It's called Scepter. So if you're just got a home enthusiast lawn, I'll be upfront and honest, guy. This is going to be it's more expensive. It's about $320 over 1 litre, but that 1 litre pretty much treats about 8,000 square metres. So, but this is where like more for lawn contractors who are doing multiple lawns over a year. It's a good broad spectrum fungicide. Fludioxanil is the active ingredient in there. You may be familiar with that in another product called Tribeca from Turf Culture. I will mention that one because that one works on it as well. But this is straight fludioxanil by itself. It does brown patch, it does anthracnose, it does helmo, and it does fusarium. So it's a good all-rounder there. This will clean up the brown patch there. It's not a systemic fungicide. It is a contact, but the beauty about this product is we'll go a little bit about them. So with contact fungicides, generally speaking, you put them on and they'll tend to wash away. Mancozeb, Thiram will tend to wash away pretty easily. Chlorothalonil, except our one, will tend to wash away. This one binds to the plant really well. So once it dries, it binds. It does not wash away. So you get about 14 to 21 days out of this product. So if you've got brown patch like this and the disease is pretty much stopped, I still recommend having to spray a fungicide because any new growth coming through is still going to have issues with growing. It might get infected and will not be as healthy. So you need to protect that new growth. So that's where the Scepter comes in to protect that new growth. When we go on a spring dead spot, I'll say this once you have spring dead spot, you cannot do anything in the world to cure that disease. It's done and dusted. The only time a fungicide is going to help is to protect new growth. So many times I've seen online, whether it's in the lawn space or whether it's in the professional space, going, I'll put on this fungicide, that'll get rid of it. It's got spring dead spot on the label. It won't do a thing. It will only protect new growth, which is still what you should do, but do not expect it to actually recover. That's where you need your renovation practices. But when it comes back to brown patch, this, if you get this early enough or get it when it's still active, it'll just wipe out pretty quickly. What you're seeing on that situation, what you've got on there, depending on what the conditions are, if it stays sort of humid and wet, you're probably going to need maybe 2 applications, about 14 days apart to really knock it on its head. Right. A lot of products are strong, but you might need a backup spray of some. So the other one out there, there's a couple of combination products as well that work well on brown patch. I know there's Tombstone out there, but I prefer Impala. Impala's got the triticonazole and the azoxystrobin. The azoxystrobin is very strong on brown patch by itself. The Tombstone's got tebuconazole and trifloxystrobin, but trifloxystrobin as a group 11. Hopefully I'm not confusing people too much here, but I said to Luke, I'll make a heap of information available. As a group 11, it's not the strongest in that class of chemistry, but the azoxystrobin, I do like that more. The other thing, ipridine. So ipridine has been around a long time. That is good for brown patch as well. So that's a good one there. I'm not a fan of going with propiconazole. So you've got like Bumper or Banner for brown patch control. They do have some effect on brown patch, but look, realistically, I don't look at them. If you've got brown patch, I wouldn't use them at all. Simple as that. They're not that great on it overall. The other one that we do have.
Well, while you're saying that, I would back that up in my experience. What you were just saying there, I'll bring that back in a second. But the propiconazole, look, people, if you are hearing all these words and thinking that Nadeem is speaking a different language, he kind of is. But the idea that he's getting at here actually is if you look, like you're being too generous sometimes, Nadeem, with your information, where you're going, here are the active ingredients. You could pause this video, look at what you've got in your shed and see, is there any of these active ingredients that would work? Tell us about this one here.
So let me firstly just show that. So I've made up this. It's an Australian chemical list of all the pretty much the chemicals available in Australia for turf. More than happy to hand it out. I've given it out to show to the students. So again, they'll have the contact details where you guys can ask me and I'll send it to them, no problem. So this one is our Dacagrin.
Well,
so
actually,
this chlorothalonil. Yes,
sorry, Nadeem. We might be able to. I worked out this week a way to have shareable Google links in my description. So we might actually be able to have just guys, if there may be a way that I can put in the description, they can just download it instantly from YouTube. So that would be cool if we could work that out. Okay. Tell us about Dacagrin.
That would be great.
Dacagrin.
So Dacagrin. So Dacagrin is chlorothalonil. Chlorothalonil has been around a long, long time, since 1971. We were the ones who actually introduced chlorothalonil into Australia. So a lot of people don't know that. We're the ones who did all the original work for chlorothalonil for all those years on the diseases. So we know a lot about this product. It is our baby. One thing that sets this part, one thing I will say is like it does brown patch. It does brown patch, dollar spot, grey leaf spots, what's on the label. Chlorothalonil has always been known that it does about a dozen different diseases, a lot of secondary diseases. So it's got some good, strong disease spectrum on there. Obviously, not being registered, I can't say what what they're for, but it will do other diseases as well. But one thing that with Dacagrin that's very different to every chlorothalonil out there is our formulation. So we've got the original source. So this one comes out of Japan. Like a lot of our products are manufactured in Australia, and a lot of them actually in Western Australia as well. But this product we get out of the original manufacturer in Japan. They make it quite differently. So they've got the actual active ingredient, which is a very small particle size. So when it gets mixed up, so it allows very good spreading of the chemical over the leaf. Then it's also got different stickers in there with it. So it's got stickers where it just puts it on, and literally as soon as it's dry, it is rain fast. It does not wash off. We've got data to back this up. We even see that even if the spray is not totally dry, it will still give you a result. It still works really well. So this sort of is very cost effective. So it's more going to be for this. John does about half a hectare. So again, it's for if you're going to got multiple lawns that you're spraying or a sports field, that's where this is going to come in handy. But yeah, it is a superior formulation. We've tested it. We know it back to front. Yeah, it's the original. We've looked at cheaper materials, but there's a reason that the cheaper materials are cheaper. They just don't stack up against the Dacagrin.
So hold on a second.
This one. Yeah.
Well, can I just pause you there? So what you're telling me is just because something has the same active ingredient, if it's made in a different way, it may be less effective because of how it binds?
Yeah. So what I will say is like going, so if you put our Dacagrin against another chlorothalonil side by side, sunny day, no rain for 7 days, you will not see a difference. And they will work. And because every product that you buy that's registered, it works. And it's been tested to work. However, where it's different, it's like you put it on and you get rain that day. Like you call me up and say, hey, look, hey, Nadeem, I put some Dacagrin on a couple of hours ago. It's starting to rain. Yeah, it'll be fine. Did it dry? Yeah, it's fine. It's rain fast within about half an hour to an hour. It's fine. Where the other one will be like, oh, geez, you're probably going to have to reapply. And we've shown that as well. So that's where it's different. So even though they're the same, so there's conversations online I see where it's the same active. Oh, it's the same thing. It's like, yes, same active. However, there are different ingredients within the formulation that sets it apart. You see that we call the inert ingredients. So that's, the differences there. Another one I'll explain is iprodiol. There's 3 different versions. There's the normal 500 gram per litre water-based one. There's a water-based one, higher loading one. But there's another one which is oil-based, which meant to stick to the plant a lot better. So once that's dry, it sticks. That's 250 GT that we've got. And then there's the iprodiol 500. There's Cheap Top Flow and another couple of versions out there, but they're only water-based. They will work just as well, but if you get rain on them within a couple of hours, you may lose a bit of the effectiveness there. Bumper and Banner, that's another one. They've got different inerts, solvents in there. Make it work the same way, but sometimes the one with a cleaner formulation will tend to sort of work a little bit better and not smell as much as well. That's the other side.
So let me just get this right, because I didn't even know this. I'm learning this with everybody else at the same time. Different active ingredients can be made in different ways, and it will make them rain fast, better, quicker, or not. And what I'm just hearing as I'm hearing you say this is basically for at least us over here, we're only ever getting fungal issues when we're getting lots of rain. So if we're seeing fungal issues, I'm going to be wanting to pick the product that is the most rain fast. Maybe in Queensland where it's humid, or maybe in certain areas it wouldn't matter so much. But I can't believe I only just found this out. Like I can't, because I've got no problem. Like I've got absolutely no problem spending $100 more on a large container size, of product, because when I put it out as an application, it usually for at least my clients only works out to be $3 or $4 more for the actual. I'm not doing. We do schools, but we're not doing too much application there. It's mostly still residential stuff. So I've never been one to worry about a slight difference in price. I just didn't know why there was a difference in price, so I was just buying the cheapest one most of the time.
And there are just like when it comes to the systemic fungicides, that's a whole nother thing, and that's why I'm going to go back to that. That tells you what contact and systemic is. So with what each product is. So I'm not pushing this because it's actually going to sell you anything. Seriously, it's not. But it's great information for everyone out there, because I do talks for TAFE students and go on about resistance management and how fungicides work, and that's a 3-hour talk that I do it for them. So we only got we don't have 3 hours here to go into that, but there are differences. So what I say is just trust the reputable. A lot of the very reputable companies that have been around a long time, multinationals, the good quality Australian companies, you're going to get good quality products. And the people that didn't call and ask questions. Like I've had quite a few phone calls on our one road this year, and people say, "Oh, how do you get all these people calling up?" I said, "Yeah, they've been good enough to buy our product. I can spend 5-10 minutes on the phone. Half an hour later, I'm still on the phone to them and stuff like that." But they've gone, and I don't mind because I've actually helped them with a few other issues as well. But the thing is, if I look at you bought my product, I'm happy enough to help you. So if you can deal with a company like that, I think everyone would like to deal with a company like that.
Just don't bring up F1 because it will be a 2-hour conversation and he won't actually help you on anything. He'll just be chatting F1 the whole time. We're moving on from F1 today. We can't talk about anything. I know the weekend was terrible. It was hot. Moving on. And talking about moving on, let's move on from Brown Patch. A little bit move on. I want to talk about Spring Dead Spot. I've had a friend, actually, shout out to Ralphie, Kieran Ralph. I remember years ago, he had Spring Dead Spot in his yard, and this isn't the most high-quality photo we could get. You've actually got some close-ups. I'll just go to them right now, but this is short-cut turf. So the problem with this photo, there's nothing wrong with this photo if you're doing with short-cut turf. It's just that a lot of us aren't dealing with short-cut turf like this. So here is a longer, and this is Cooch or Bermuda. This is an American picture that I could find. We were struggling to get something as good as a comparison to this that you had. And again, this is Kaikuyu, and this is Cooch in this brown patch, right?
Yeah. So let me just show these ones. This was there.
Yes,
that's it. That was Cooch as well, yes.
And you will have some book recommendations at the back of this, at the end of this podcast. So, Spring Dead Spot. You mentioned this very briefly before. I'm just going to summarize some of this stuff. The internal patches that I'm getting in brown patch here, where the grass is still kind of going, I'm not getting that here. And what you also said is once it's gone, it's gone. Spring Dead Spot, is literally that. It is a dead spot. What else are we getting from, or what are the differences? How do we identify the difference between Spring Dead Spot then brown patch? And then we'll go into some cures, solutions, how we can help this.
Yeah. So Spring Dead Spot will tend to come in as it's a dinner plate size. Look at it that way. It can be like mug size, but generally dinner plate size. So Spring Dead Spot, as its name suggests, will come in spring. So you will see it, depending on where you are in Australia, anywhere from August, September, October into November. That's the time it's going to happen there. So if you show me a picture in January, you can say it's Spring Dead Spot. So no, it's not Spring Dead Spot. It must be some form of other ERI type disease. So Spring Dead Spot's always going to come there. And it's always.
Can I just pause you there, Nadeem? Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, Nadeem. We've said ERI a few times. We haven't spelt it out. What does ERI mean?
Okay. Ectotrophic root infecting fungi. So very common. Like, so you get a lot of soil-borne diseases. Actually, I do have an article in ERI as well that I can link into as well. But it's a complex of different diseases, generally caused by something what's known as Gwenomyces, different species of Gwenomyces. That's the causal agent of the ERI disease. So ERI isn't a disease, so to speak, but it's just a complex of different diseases. It's another common name. And that's different. It's a soil-borne disease that attacks the roots, very slow growing, and there's quite a few different ones, and ones that have been discovered, but no one knows what they are because no research has been done, and they're quite slow growing. And a lot of the ERI diseases will tend to come up towards summertime and in through the summer and early into the autumn time as well. All depends on what it is. Like, you'll see a lot more ERI. I know I've seen a lot online with the newer sort of couch varieties, Tiff-Tuff and Utahomas will tend to have quite a bit of ERI, it's a bit of ERI in them. Where spring dead spot is it's just going to occur in the springtime. That's when you're going to get it, and it tends to come in when everything's coming out of dormancy and go, hey, wait a minute, I've got these patches, nothing's growing. Oh, I've got disease. Let's go out and spray. But you're spraying for something that's already done and dusted. So spring dead spot is a product, something you need to control this culturally. You really can't. The only way to do that is to just healthiest surface possible going into winter will help. However, you do need to apply, if you do have a history of spring dead spot, to apply a registered fungicide starting around February and going sort of February, March, April, depending on where you are. If in February, if in April you're still warm, it might need another application for May just to be on the safe side, but you usually tend to do every 28 days. So the products that you use, and you need to do it preventatively because that's when the actual disease is active. So you just got to remember that when you're attacking a disease, to kill it, you need the actual disease to be active. Otherwise, a fungicide won't do a thing. So that's why you need to spray this going into the autumn time. And there are some good chemistries to control spring dead spot.
Okay, so can I just try and summarize this? Because I'm going to try and sum this down for the people who are like me, and this is not our world. ERI is kind of like a family, I guess, or an umbrella term for a whole host of diseases, of which spring dead spot is. Spring dead spot is a different kind of is brown patch an ERI, or is that a different?
No, brown patch is different. Brown patch is different.
So now we're talking about a sort of it looks similar, the shape's similar.
Yeah,
it can be misunderstood, but the way we treat this is quite different. And what you were just saying there is once the disease. So we said this before. Once the disease has worked and it's done its thing, that lawn's not coming back. We'll talk more about that soon. But also, once the disease is done, the herbicide, also the fungicide application is not going to do anything.
Yep.
All right, let's keep going.
Yeah. So if you've got this, so product wise, okay. So your propiconazole, as I was saying before, not great on brown patch, but brilliant on spring dead spot. So your bumper, banner, anything like your Tombstone, Impala, Dedicated, Patriot is very good. The only thing you just got to watch out for with anything like with the Group 3 fungicides, like the ones with propiconazole, tridiconazole, and all those, they can be they can regulate turf quite severely. So
slow the growth is what people
slow the growth,
again.
So act as a growth regulator. So if you are putting growth regulator on, so yes, they can act as a growth regulator. So if you say put on propiconazole, say bumper, and you've got say Primo on there as well, you can get a double dose of regulation there. So just be wary of that. The great thing about Primo is that it'll grow out of it quite quick. When I first came in the industry, I remember like bowling green keepers, they go, yeah, we put banner on propiconazole, put the grains to sleep, so the grains go dormant, and it does. So you just got to watch out for that. It will happen, or it will slow the growth. There are other chemistries. So there's Group 7 chemistry. So a good one for Lister from Syngenta, very good on spring dead spot, or probably a cheaper option, Posterity. Does dollar spot as well, but awesome on spring dead spot. And they do not cause any growth regulation at all. So that's definitely an option there for spring dead spot control if you don't want that regulation.
So I've used propiconazole on spring dead spot, as a preventative, and I'm using it around the March period. That's what I understand is a good time. Is that correct? So this should be. So this is the thing that gets people is that is 6 months before spring when the disease starts showing. So this is a conversation that we've had and a few other people that I've talked to. Once I've seen it, there really isn't much I can do with it. I need to prevent it.
No, that's it. You need to do, say March, and then another one in April as well, about 28 days later. Whether it's the same, whether it's the propiconazole twice in a row, that's okay. So when one of the things is, we're not going to talk too much on resistance, but spring dead spot, there's no known resistance to spring dead spot. So if someone said, I just use propiconazole every year, going, that's fine. There's no known resistance to it. If it ever did, we do have other chemistries there. So don't be afraid to use the same one there. Because I don't want people to keep on going out and buying 10 products. And I sometimes see online how many people bought products and go, you don't really need that much. That's the thing. So if you have that, that's your spring dead spot application every year. That's your spring dead spot. Does dollar spot as well. But just remember, it can give you that regulation. Where it doesn't give you the regulation is like when the surf is really, really actively growing, you don't tend to see the regulation there. So, but if you want, it's like going, if you use propiconazole or you use, some people do, say, a posterity early, and then they'll use the propiconazole later going into winter, so as everything's starting to slow down. So that could be that's a good strategy there. But the aim is you need to water the product in. I can't stress that enough. It's a root disease. You need to water it in. You need to water it in straight away. So if you're applying this for someone's lawn, if they don't have irrigation, they need to stand out there with a hose or whatever it is, but they need to water it in. Do not let it dry. Water in straight away. Whether you want to mix it with, you don't necessarily need to mix it with any wetting agent or so. You can if you want, but generally speaking, put it on by itself. And the products are designed anyway that you just got to remember that when all these were developed, no wetting agent was put in with them. They were just done by themselves and watered in afterwards. So they will work just by putting them, just by irrigation or rainfall afterwards. But you need to water it in, and then it's like, and you do as a preventative. Now, as a preventative, you're not probably going to get 100% control, but if you will probably get, like if you get bad spring dead spot like you see in this, expecting the second year or the year that you apply, you're probably going to get 80 to 90% reduction. You'll still see a little bit there, but it's going to be less and less. But you've got to keep up to it. It's hard to say, is it going to be a bad spring dead spot? Yeah, a lot of the times you just don't know. It just, we tend to find out this time of year if it's going to be a bad spring dead spot year. If it's see how good the chemistries work. But timing is critical and application.
So, Nadeem, this is a question that I can hear. I can literally hear the audience screaming in the headphones. They're saying, that's all great and good, Nadeem, about preventing it 6 months before, but I've got it now. And what do I do?
Yes.
Like, how do you're telling me it's hopeless, like it's gone, there's nothing I can do, or maybe I can't apply a fungicide, but how do I get this lawn back? Like, what's the situation? Once my lawn looks like this.
Renovate. Do a renovation on it. That's the best way. You've got to encourage the growth to come through, all that new growth. So, as I said before, it's like you can put a fungicide on, but you don't need the heavy hitters. You don't need to go, I'm going to go put on propiconazole or Velista or posterity now for spring dead spot control. Well, there's no point in us doing anything. I would recommend sort of like just a broad spectrum fungicide just to cover everything, just to make sure everything's got some sort of protection on there. But go in and renovate, fertilizer, get the thing growing. That's what it comes down to. Get that recovery growing as much as possible.
Okay, so I renovate. I really then wouldn't want to use a growth regulating one like propiconazole that would slow the growth. I want a non-regulating one. I want to put it out there, and I'm going to a full sort of, we're verti-mowing, we're renovating it back, we're scalping it down, we're aerating, we're putting a lot of nutrients on it because we want to revive those areas.
Yep, that's right. So, I said the Hippodrome before, our scepter that we've got there, that one there, that's good broad spectrum just to cover what's there, and it'll give you good protection. Going forward from that point of view as well. So definitely there. Some combination products. Just stay away from those group 3s, like the propiconazole, the tridiconazole, when you're in the renovation time. And I think there's some warnings on some of the labels that it'll just hinder recovery. So look at that. Look at the group 7. Depending on your budgets and what you've got, look at the group 7. There's some really good group 7 by themselves. There's I know there's Exemplar's not too bad. I said Velista's another good one. I do like Velista. That tends to work quite well for a broad range of diseases. Dacagrin, that works as well. really well. But just get the turf growing, get it coming back.
Let's go. We got next one.
Yep.
So that was spring dead spot. Now I should just show this really quickly before we go on to the next one. This is what it looks like in smaller patches on very short cut turf. So it will look slightly different. Most of the people who are listening to this, we're talking about contractors. They're not cutting bowling greens. But if you are, maybe in your home lawn or a couple of clients, you may be seeing patches like that. And you may misdiagnose it because it's smaller for our next one. Actually, quickly before this, I did like this little tip here. Lee Butler, you've shared me this. Quick tip for Bermuda managers, an easy way to determine if you have spring dead spot as they green up is to wash the soil away from stolons rhizomes and look for these black fungal mats with a hand lens under the affected portion of your plug. So that's what we're looking for there. That's a great tip.
So some of the guys on golf crews are watching this. That looks a little bit like anthracnose, because anthracnose, you do tend to get that as well. But this is obviously, on Bermuda on cooch. So very different, but two different diseases that can look quite similar. But this is cooch, So that's a good one there. So Lee Butler's from North Carolina State University. I have spoken to him a couple of times. I know his colleagues quite well. Jim Kearns from the Brand pathologist from NC State. He came out as a keynote speaker for the Australian Turf Race Conference this year. Good bloke, Jim. Took him to his first rugby league game. Not AFL, not Aussie rules, rugby league game when he was here. I like to say that.
Mate, we are running out of time. Let's go. We've got dollar spot in Kikuyu. We've got more dollar spot there. And we've got some fairy ring coming up. I don't know. Let's go. Let's talk about dollar spot. This one should be one of the quicker ones we can get through, right?
Yeah. Okay. So dollar spot is a very common disease. One thing is, it's probably it's very common. It's quite easy to deal with, especially in Australia. However, it's the most troublesome disease worldwide. You look at all the turf research. I was at the International Turf Conference in Japan earlier this year in July. I think pretty much us Aussies with dollar spot now. We heard every second talk was like a dollar spot. We don't get it as bad. So this is the one we were go back to the beginning of the podcast and listen to what we were talking about with the dew and the cultural practices. That's where you can really sort of control dollar spot that way. And it does come up, and the aim was that there was a dollar coin spot that sort of came up. So it just comes in. You can fertilize it out in a way. You can put a little bit of nitrogen on to see how that reacts, but it gets to a stage where it can get quite bad. And then it's like, it can warrant a spray in terms of that. But it tends to come in the cooler months, or not the cooler months, the shoulder seasons again, where the dew's starting to become heavy. Temperatures around sort of the mid-20s, overnight temperatures anywhere from around 10 degrees up to about, sometimes we get like 20. We had one year where it was a bad dollar spot. It was like 20, 22 degrees overnight and about 28 during the day, high humidity. We got a heap of dollar spots, as well as lithium, but there was a heap of dollar spot around. So it likes that leaf wetness there. And there's a lot of products that will control it. But if you can do it culturally-wise with those things we said, pretty easy. I will say I've got this product. Scepter does it. I've got another one called Trident. This one does dollar spot and Helmo and Fusarium. It's a good little cost-effective one, registered on ornamentals as well and veg gun, but it's a group 3. There's rubies there. It doesn't have growth regulation, this one anyway. And as long as you don't do too many applications in a row, you won't see any growth regulation with this product. So it is an option, and it's quite cost-effective to do. This bottle will treat 1,400 square metres, and it's about $150 or so for that. So it's not that expensive to do dollar spot. And it's systemic as well, so it will do a good curative on dollar spot.
I want to say really briefly on the No, I'm happy with that. Yep. I mean, you're one of the worst salesmen I've ever met, Nadeem, because you're always talking about everybody else's products. You're helping everybody else. You're telling people to have cultural practices, and then every time you refer to one of your products, it's sort of reluctant.
Yep. The Dakar Green will do. I forgot to say Dakar Green will do it as well. That's Dakar Green and Trident are our two strongest products on dollar spot. The other one I've got is Emerald, but unfortunately, you're not allowed to use it in a home lawn situation, but it's awesome on dollar spot, Emerald. But Dakar Green and Trident themselves, both very, very good on it.
Well, but I've got no problem with you recommending. I want you to recommend some products because we need the help, and you're out here helping us. So I would just say as well that I was going to say this before when you were saying this. There are products you can get at, say, like a Bunnings, for example, like a Maker's Ebb. And that works across a lot of things. Brown patch would be one of them. When you
Yeah,
look at one, what was that?
the Mancozeb is pretty useless against dollar spot. I don't know how. There's one product that I see online that says it's got registered. I don't know how. Mancozeb doesn't do dollar spot. Same with Thyram. Don't even look at those products. It's it could have an effect that helps with other diseases, but it's not going to really do anything with dollar spot. Those two. But
what I was just going to say is, if you're a contractor and you hear, say, $200 for a bottle of fungicide or whatever it is, and you just sort of go, oh my goodness, that sounds expensive. It does sound expensive when you compare that to the price point of these things that you're getting for Bunnings for $30, the area covered, and sometimes the amount of water needed. So if you were to get a Mancozeb, it's from memory, and check me on this, people, but from memory, it's something like 9 liters per square meter. You need to get a whole watering can every square meter you're applying that out at. And as a contractor, it's just not a very practical way to apply it, right? Like, it's not something that could be applied with professional sprayers or things like that in an efficient manner. And it ends up being expensive in secondary ways. Let's summarize this dollar spot idea. If we've got dollar spot, first thing, you want to be getting rid of the dew. You want to be trying those cultural practices, and there may be an opportunity for you to fertilize it out. So, Nadeem, I'm guessing we would start with those as see how they go, and maybe a couple of weeks later, if we're still having problems, then we'd go to some products. That's the idea?
Yeah, definitely. Look, if it's full blown out there, go and spray. But do the cultural practice first. Give it about a week to 10 days. It's like, depending on how often you go back to your clients, but give it about a week to 10 days if you can. If it hasn't gotten too much better, then it's like, you know what, we're going to put a fungicide on. And tell your clients what you're going to do, and then say, look, if it's not going to work, will you be happy with this? We're going to do a fungicide spray, which we'll know we'll get rid of it. It's going to cost you X amount. And if they say yes, then at least go, and if you're going back towards, one afternoon, nearly pretty much finished up for the day, but you just go back to that client, have a look, going, you know what, it needs a spray. Get out the sprayer, go out and do the spray then and there. Tell the client you've done. I don't know how you all work, but that's how I sort of look at it. And the client go, oh, great, okay, it needed it, rather than them call you a couple of days later and go, hey, Luke, what do you reckon? Have you come out and seen my lawn yet? I think it's getting worse. It's like, get on the front foot and, give that extra service to your client. It doesn't cost you too much, and it won't take you too long to actually do the spray either.
No. Okay, let's go on to fairy ring over here.
Yep.
I'm going to try and do a rundown of fairy ring because we're going to run out of time, Nadeem, and you're going to have to go pick up your children at some point, I believe.
Yes.
What I understand with fairy ring, I'm just going to give a brief overview of fairy ring, and I want you to piggyback off what I'm saying. I want you to take it deeper. Yep. Fairy ring, as I understand, is a disease that doesn't actually eat the plant. It's attacking or eating the soil, and then some secondary problems come from that. And so sometimes it's something you don't really need to treat because it's not really affecting it. Sometimes it is. Sometimes there's aeration and wetting agents solve the issues. Sometimes it gets into fungicides, and it gets a little complicated on the fungicides front because if I'm remembering correctly, there were dozens of different types of fungus that cause this same sort of fairy ring, what would you call it, reaction or visible effect. Is that a good little summary of the fairy ring situation?
Yes, definitely. You've hit on a nutshell there, and that's it. There are the different types, and there's about 50 or 60 species of Basidiomyces, which is the causal agent of the fairy ring. But there's only a few that tend to affect turf, so it's not all the time you're going to get it. And we typically put fairy ring into type 1, type 2, type 3 fairy ring. So should we quickly go through that, what that is?
Well, let me go through these photos because here's type 1 and type 2. You tell me. I'll zoom in as you're talking.
Yeah. So, so
all of them.
Before you saw, so all of them are here. So your type 1 is your yellow part, the yellow ring, which is a dead turf. That one will tend to come in, and you start to see, it's a good picture here because it's just starting to sort of really develop. So it tends to come in when it's been hot and dry. That's when you tend to get that one really accelerate sort of the death of the turf, and it moves. When we were doing our monster trials, our fairy ring trials originally, we had to actually move our plots because the fairy ring moved so much through the couple of months. The same course we were doing the trial on, one of the greens, it literally moved about 20 meters over the whole summer. It just keeps on moving. It's pretty very strange. I love to have a time lapse camera on it. But go back to here. So you've got type 1, which is a dead yellow ring there.
Yeah.
Type 2 is a dark green ring. So that'll tend to turn
right next to it.
Yeah, right next to it, the dark green ring. So that's classified as type 2. So that's where you see the real greening effect. Type 3 is the mushroom. So we've seen on the last few years a lot of mushrooms around the type 3. So that's still a fair ring there, and it still affects the turf. So when people say it's like, oh, it doesn't kill the turf, well, mushrooms don't. Number one, you don't want to eat it, or you don't want the animals or your kids or anyone to get in touch with it. But what I want to show you is like going, you can have the 3 different types of fairing all in the same area. Simple as that. And they all do things that attack the turf differently. So the type 1 is the most destructive. The type 2, it's a breakdown of the nitrates, where pretty much you get the nitrates leaching out and you get that greening effect there, which can turn into type 1 if not treated. It can.
Mm-hmm.
Type 3 with the mushrooms, that one tends to come in with more wet weather. It can come in with the drier weather as well, but generally speaking, it's the wet weather or overwatering, you'll get the mushrooms come up. And then that can turn into type 1 or type 2 in the long run if conditions are right, or if your conditions are right and you haven't treated, it can turn into worse there. But you just got to realize that with fairing, it's like you've got different ones. They all affect the turf. Type 1 and type 2 are the most destructive. Type 3, we can usually control that, generally speaking, just by cultural practice with turning the water, reducing the amount of water, putting on maybe some penetrant wetting agent to help displace that water if it's sitting there, and then just things drying up in general. If it hangs around, you can spray it. We'll talk about Monster. We'll talk about that. It's the best product for fairing out there, not just because I'm saying it, it's actually proven that way. But the dark green ring, once you get it, it is hard to control because the nitrate has got to finish dissipating. It's got to finish leaching out. So you will get that green ring for a little bit longer. The type 1, fairly easy to deal with Monster, but you just need to keep the water up. So the way to do, can we get into the way we deal with fairing besides Monster?
Well, I want to add some of the points here that maybe we've missed.
Yep.
Because the fungal issue is eating at the organic matter in the soil, that's what's creating the green up effect. And some people will just fertilize to mask it. So they'll fertilize around it, so the whole thing's just that dark green. And what I want to say very briefly is my understanding is that the dead patch we're seeing, actually the photo before was a better option. This patch in here is actually caused, if I understand correctly, correct me on this if I'm getting it wrong, but it is caused by the soil becoming hydrophobic and maybe even having some gases in it that have been released through that breakdown process. And so sometimes you could put a fungicide on and it would kill the disease, but the lawn is still hydrophobic. So it needs like a good wetting agent application. It needs a good aeration to open it up to get those gases out.
Yeah, definitely. So that's what the fairing disease does. So as you said in the beginning, Guy, it doesn't attack. The disease does not attack the plant directly. It attacks the soil. So it attacks the soil where it's like going that the organic matter is broken down, the ammonium is released, and nitrate to give that greening effect, but the soil becomes hydrophobic. So you put the fungicide on and it'll kill the disease and stop it, but you need to re-wet the soil. So the only way you can re-wet the soil is by using a wetting agent, or a heap of rain comes through and hopefully recovers that way. But generally speaking, a wetting agent is needed to re-wet it there. So that's the two-pronged attack in terms of that. Definitely there. So that's why we say, mix your fungicide with your wetting agent. Some products, they apply your wetting agent a week prior to your fungicide, but from a practical point of view, from a lawn contractor point of view, it's going to be a bit hard. So that's where mixing them, it's going to be definitely beneficial. The other side is I've already put wetting agent on. Why should I need more? Well, obviously you've had the problem. So whatever you're putting with wetting agent on, it's either the wrong wetting agent, you're not maybe using the right rate, or you need more wetting agent to really get it re-wet. The other side is you've got to get your client to actually water the place too. So because it's become hydrophobic, yes, you can put the wetting agent on, but the wetting agent does what it does, but you still need to put water on there to get the re-wetting going, to get the recovery growing as well. So that's where it's like a bit of a team effort with your client to get them to do the right things as well, you can only do so much, and it can take a bit of time to recover the fair ring. So it's not like dollar spot. Dollar spot, you can, within 24 to 72 hours, pretty much can be recovered. Fair ring, depending on how bad it is, can take a couple of weeks to really recover. That's one thing you got to do. The other thing now is you can do is aerate the area. So if you aerate it with, obviously, if you've got a machine going to aerate it, otherwise you just do it with pitchfork, just the area that's not just the area affected, but just go a meter each side of it for whatever spray you're doing, and then mix your fungicide with your wetting agent and water in afterwards. And you do have to water your fungicide in because you're going for the soil, because you're getting the roots, you've got to water it in. Like we've got water 5 to 10 mil irrigation after for Monster. So 5 mil is usually good enough. But yeah, you want to do it that way, and that'll help recovery, but just be patient with it.
I think that's a pretty good summary, mate, considering the time that we've got. I guess what I want to do, I haven't even told you this, Nadeem, but we're upgrading the internet here at the warehouse, people. And the reason we're doing this is I need stronger internet to do live conversations. And one thing I want to do is to have someone like a Nadeem on in the future and let you guys send in messages, chats, and we can actually have an interactive thing. So that's something we're trying to work on. It's super expensive, by the way. It's like $3,000 because we don't have NBN here. Yeah, we got to get a dual SIM mobile 5G set up with maybe even a Starlink backup, and I don't know. I've been researching, and we'll work it out. We're working it out though. We want to commit.
I've got that I'll send you as well about fair ring. I've sent this out to a few people and stuff, but I think I've got this on our website. But yeah, it's a fair ring best management practices, and it talks about fair ring and how to best obviously apply Monster. I will say one thing: Monster is expensive. This is the 5 litre. We do have a 1 litre bottle as well. It's not the cheapest product in the world. It's a couple $100 for a litre, but it works. And you do not have to treat the whole lawn. You can just treat the ring. So you can always do that as well. So don't be set back by the price. If you want to obviously treat a whole lawn and your client is willing to pay for it, by all means. But this will cover a quarter bag. That's about $650 for 5 litres. But generally speaking, we do have the litre bottle. And they're about $200 or so. So you can treat, I can't remember, 500 square meters, but you can treat just different. You don't have to treat the whole lawn, just the actual fairy ring itself.
All right, let's go. We got another fairy ring here example, but we want to move.
Yep.
We want to move on very quickly to leaf spot diseases. Now, I've titled this one as Helmo. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the full name. And there's a few, if I remember correctly, you've sort of grey leaf spot, which is Curlvaria or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm now trying to pronounce names that I definitely can't get.
Did I send you that one on the grey leaf spot, the other one? Did you have that one?
Well, why don't you talk and I'll see what you did spray if I've missed it. If I did miss it.
So the word that we were trying to pronounce was Helminthosporium. So black helmo is the sort of common name. So you see black helmo and you see grey leaf spot. So this is black helmo on Kaikiu. This disease can get on pretty much any turf grass, warm season, cool season. Very easy to identify. It's got these little black dots on it. And it does, and it's on there because of the heat, the humidity, and the dew and stuff like that. So controlling it is quite simple. It can, if you get it bad and you leave it, it will really wipe out an area. I've seen bowling greens get it and just wipe out the whole green. But what you need to do with this is like all those cultural practices with the dew, reduce the dew, reduce the leaf wetness. That'll help with this. So it tends to come in at the height of summer. So there's other diseases associated with this Helmo disease. So Curvularia, Bipolaris, Dressler, and generally speaking, they all look a little bit different, but they all do the blackening of the leaves. You'll get that, and you'll see that when you're trying to identify it, it's attacking the leaf. It's not attacking the root. It's not attacking the crown of the plant. It's attacking the leaf. So that's how you know sort of more, okay, I've got a leaf disease here. Let's see what options there are available in terms of controlling it. Now, grey leaf spot is different. Grey leaf spot is one that you will tend to get on buffalo. That's very common on buffalo and talk best to you as well in the course season guides. So grey leaf spot, you didn't have that picture, Luke? One?
No, I didn't. I couldn't find it. But I think what you're saying is great. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you get the grey leaf spot. So the grey leaf spot looks like a more of a looks like the Helmo, but it's got like the bleaching in between. and the black outside. So that's how you can tell the difference with it. Let me see if I can quickly, because there's a good picture of yeah.
I'm going to Google this as well. Grey leaf spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a slight difference, but if we talk about treating them, is there much of a difference? Here we go. I've got one.
I don't know. I've got
a picture for you. You tell me about the treatment of it, because I've got one here.
Okay. So with Helmo, Cavalier, Dressler. Yeah. So the Sept and the Trident, I told you about before, they will, and the Dacagrim, they'll easily clean up all the Helmo diseases very, very quickly, very, very easily. So they're good, cost-effective options for it. Now, grey leaf spot, the Dacagrim will do grey leaf spot, but not many other products will. So you've just got to look at what's registered for it. I know sometimes if you do have both diseases, that's where you've got to look at going, what's say you've got both diseases, jumped all once, got both diseases, and you've got grey leaf spot. So you've got trident in your shed going, wait a minute, that's not going to get my grey leaf spot, but you can still spray it to get your Helmo, and it may actually be able to help the plant recover and actually fight off the grey leaf spot by itself. Otherwise, if you just have Dacagrim, you can do that. There's a few other products. I think Impala's got on the label. I can't remember. I really apologise, guys. I should know this off the top of my head. But grey leaf spot is a different disease. But as you can see, it's quite different here. But again, it's quite easy to deal with. So just be aware. And it only really gets buffalo grass. Yep. So it only really gets buffalo. So that's the other thing. Where the Helmo gets into all types of warm season grass, the grey leaf spot will just tend to get into buffalo. But the same way you treat for Helmo is for your cultural practices, same way for grey leaf spot as well. That's the thing there. And I thought I found something.
Well, let me try and summarize what you were saying, which is going to test my ability to both search images and listen to Nadeem at the same time. But you're saying that the sort of Dreschlera, whatever it's pronounced, the bipolaris, those diseases are very similar in how they show up, and they're treated in very similar ways. And they're not too hard to deal with. Obviously, the common cultural practices of getting rid of the dew, constant wetness, and other listed products there. I didn't hear much of a difference with how you would treat the Helmo or that with the grey leaf spot. Is there much of a difference?
Yeah, well in terms of products, yes, because like say the Trident won't touch grey leaf spot. The Scepter won't touch grey leaf spot. They both do Helmo. Dacagrim will do both.
Okay.
So that's it. So you've got to look at what you've got on what you've got in the shed, what actually works that way, what's registered. So they are different to treat in terms of a chemical point of view, but culturally you do the same. Because they are on the leaf, you can reduce the dew. That's the best way to do it. Reduce dew, and both will come in with high humidity, leaf wetness, and everything like that. So that's where you tend to see. And the grey leaf spot will tend to be just buffalo. You won't see it on cooch.
I've got a question for you, hypothetical. Yep. Sorry, we're talking over the television, but I've got a question for you, hypothetical. Let's say, because I did have a lot of these sort of leaf spot diseases. I've gone the wrong way again. These leaf spot diseases on my kaiku previously in a shady spot in the kaiku, and I was wondering, if I was, let's say I had a week where it was really rainy and then that was done, and I'm now down to, I know being in WA that I'm going to have nice, dry, warm weather after it. Let's say I got some disease sign from it and the dry weather is coming. Could I just mow the tips off that are affected, and then the dry weather means that the disease is not going to come back? It's not going to be thriving? Is that a good way to think about it, or am I completely off?
If you mow, usually when you're mowing, you're doing the 1/3 rule. So you'll be, say, even if it's not doing 1/3 rule, you're going to cut some of it off and make sure you have a catcher, that you will eliminate some of the disease that way. But they're still going to be infected with the rest of the leaf. Simple as that. So you will still get it. It will definitely help, like mowing and getting taking away that way definitely does help, but you'll still have disease other parts of it, because the Helmo and the grey leaf spot would say there's a leaf. You can get down in the crown as well, but we just generally tend to see it on the leaf, and you'll see it down below the canopy. So you're cutting this off, but there'll be other bits of leaf blade there that's infected as well. So even though in terms of that, so when you're applying these, we haven't really gone into sort of coverage. Make sure you've got good coverage. one of the things I will say, I keep on hearing people go, 8 litres at 100 square metres is way too much water. That's, too much. You should do 4 to 5 litres like a herbicide. Doesn't matter. You need coverage. So what I would say to people is like going, look, if you're set up to do 5 litres per 100 square metres for your sprays for your really low cut turf, that's okay. But if you're getting into a normal lawn, which is 20, 30 mil, go up higher water volume. The key to chemicals is getting the right amount of chemical over that area. Water volume uses a carrier. So sometimes, say on that the picture that you've got there where you've got the little hand, you might only get that top of the leaf for the actual chemical.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to watch out. You've got to make sure you get good coverage on it. So after you've done the spray, you can have a look and see where you've actually applied it. So if you can't see it with normal water, one couple of tricks you can do is this is where Dacrygreen really works, because you actually see it and it stays. There's a saying in the US going, spray it. Spray it white, keep it night, because it's got that white greyish look to it, so it just stays there. You actually still see it on there. The other one, you put some spray indicator on there, like we've got our True Blue. Unfortunately, sorry people, I'm not going to talk plays on. Still going through what we can do with registration. Let me just say that. But we've got our True Blue where you can actually see how your spray deposits go onto your leaf as well. So sometimes you go, oh, okay, my spray is working well, but wait a minute, are you getting enough coverage? Put a bit of blue dye in and you actually see where it goes. And don't be afraid to go, you know what, I'm going to go 7 litres per 100 square metres here. You will see a big difference in terms of coverage and you will still get results. Do not be afraid. You're not going to go, oh, I've washed it too far out. You're not. You're going to get a result. The other thing I want to say as well is that if you put a fungicide on today and then tomorrow you get a heap of rain come through, normally the systemic fungicides or, I'd say Dacrygreen or something, or the Scepter, it's going to be there. It's not going to wash away. Fungicides don't tend to leach away. They tend to bind very well to the plant matter, to the organic matter. They will not tend to wash away. So it's not like a herbicide where, oh, okay, you put it on and it's raining and going, oh, Jesus, that was a waste. I shouldn't have done it. Fungicides are different. They don't tend to wash away. They don't tend to move. There's a lot of research showing that when you apply it here, it won't end up all the way over there like some herbicides can. So fungicides are a lot safer in terms of that. So just be aware of that point of view as well. So I hope that helped.
Well, mate, I think we covered a lot of ground there, and there are more diseases we could talk about eventually. There's more weed stuff we could talk about eventually. We're going to get you back on. We're going to do more of these. I just think it's such good information. But you have 5 minutes to leave before you need to go pick up your children. And
all right.
I think, mate, we just wrap it up there and we just say, people, if you, the books.
Wait,
quick, let's go for
the
book.
Okay. So if you are interested in, I know there's a lot of online resources there. There's a lot of, one thing I want to say these days is like I've been seeing people use ChatGPT. It can be helpful. However, ChatGPT takes things from, I don't know where, a lot of the stuff. And what you're seeing now these days is there's a lot more information on the internet and it's written by, and I have seen things written by people who are not qualified in turf. They just take things. So you really need to search for reputable sources. One thing is people have forgotten about books. Yeah, there's this book called Biology and Integrated Management of Turf Grass Diseases. This is written by 3 Australian authors, gurus of turf. Dr. Percy Wong is our legend of turf grass disease in Australia. He is brilliant. He's pretty much retired now, in his 70s now, but he is a legend of disease and knows everything, plant pathology back to front. Gary B. Hag, Yuri Capro, Nathan Walker's from Oklahoma State. He co-wrote this book. This is the actual disease book, and it's Australian. It's got everything to do with any disease that you ever see. This book, Turf Management by Dr. John Kaminsky, so he's a good mate of mine. He rewrote the book on this one that Al Turgeon, a mentor of his, retired, and he rewrote in regards to anything to do with turf. This is an American book. Both these books I've got access to. I don't have any copies at the moment, but Luke will put in a whole bit of information there. Give me an email, and if you are interested in any of them, let me see if I can get enough interest to grab them, and I'm happy to sell them to you. I'd love to give them away, but they're not that cheap. And I'll tell you, it's like, as I said to Luke before we got on, I'm not making money out of this. It's a bit of a love job, but they're really good quality books.
Worst salesman in the world. Worst salesman ever.
No. So yeah. So and I won't. Yeah. If you buy a heap of one, no, we're not saying that. I'm going to do any deals, but yeah. But if you're interested in any of these books, let me know. You can buy them online, But if there's enough interest
I
there,
can
I can
get
get some
PDF.
pop discounts. Yeah, there is a PDF for this one. There's can't remember.
I've
If
got
there's
the
a
PDF for
this,
that one.
Yeah,
Not that
yeah.
one,
So
the
that
other
you
one.
can
The first one
the
you
other one.
said,
Yeah,
but yes.
yes, yeah. So if you buy them online, by all means. If you want to the hardcovers, hit me up. I might sort of do a bulk deal and try to buy a few of them there anyway and bring them in, and then you can ship them to you. And I'll give you some pricing if that works out. It will take a bit of time, but they're great books to do. As I said, there's a few resources there on our website. I'm doing it more and more. I've got my podcast, obviously, if you want to hear even more deep dive into some stuff. That's can be sometimes a bit technical, but have a listen if you get a bit bored and you don't hear as much as me on there. I'll tell you that. But I've got some good information that I'll send to Luke to put up on the links and everything like that. If anyone wants to get in touch, details will be on there. You can call me on the phone number or send me an email.
In the description?
Please do.
Description. Yes. So your
And
email will be in the description. Yes,
Yeah.
and he is good at that. And I'll tell you what, Nadeem, you've got 1 minute. We better wrap this up. Thanks so much for going on.
No, that's all right. Okay, we're still going for Oscar Piastri in the Formula One. He's had a bit of a setback as we're recording this, but no, he's going to come back. He's going to win it. Max is going to help him out by hopefully taking out Lando. And then we're going to have the first Australian World Championship since Alan Jones in 1980. There's our Formula One. We have to get that in
there. That's
our
update, mate. And to be honest, go Oscar Piastri. And thank you so much for coming on. You better go actually, not neglect your own children. Thanks, mate. See you later.
Thanks, Luke. Pleasure.